Here's the bottom line. If you don't know how to get deals on houses, you will fail as a flipper or a real estate investor. Here's the equation. It's very simple. Your sales price minus what you bought the house for, your acquisition price, minus the rehab costs, what it costs to make the house nicer, minus other costs like insurance, taxes, realtor fees, closing fees, etc. That equals your profit that you're going to take home. And some gurus out there might tell you that you could become a spreadsheet warrior, i.e. you can figure out all these costs on the front end and it's going to work out exactly like you planned it. But I'm telling you, after doing literally hundreds of rehabs, that is not possible. When you start that project, there are going to be costs that you didn't expect. And I keep telling myself that, oh gosh, I've seen it all. But just then, codes enforcement changes what they're enforcing, or a contractor walks and I have to fill in the pieces for him, or I can't sell the house for what I thought I would, or for how fast I thought I could. And all of those things add up to unexpected costs. So the only thing that I can really do is get a better deal on the front end and give myself some space for the mistakes that I know that I'm going to make. Now, of course, there are ways to mitigate all of those other things, and we talk about that here on the Moat podcast, because the Moat is all about controlling the defense mechanism that is around your empire. Your empire is you, your family. You are trying to build a business to protect your family so you can live the life that you want to. And the way that I've built my moat is through real estate, through flipping houses, through buying rentals, and through starting cash flowing businesses. And that's what we're talking about. The thing that we're really focusing on today is how to get a deal on the front end so that you can set yourself up for success. Now, the best way to understand how to find deals is by understanding the principles of supply and demand. The bigger the market is, the more demand there is, because, right, the supply is a house that you're going to buy. And when the market is bigger, the demand is bigger, therefore the price is higher. Now, what most people do when they're starting out as flippers or real estate investors is they go to the MLS to buy houses. That's where real estate agents list houses, and typically a real estate agent will help you navigate the MLS, all the houses on the market. This is synonymous. MLS is the market, is Zillow, basically, or Trulia. All the houses get listed on all of those different sites. That is the multiple listing service, MLS. Now, let's use an example throughout this talk about buying Taylor Swift concert tickets, or maybe Sturgill Simpson or Chris Stapleton, whoever you're into, Ariana Grande. If you go to Ticketmaster, that is probably the biggest market to buy concert tickets. That is the MLS. That's where everybody lists their tickets, and that's where everybody knows to go to find the tickets. Therefore, the demand is very high for that minimal amount of supply, the tickets. That is like buying a house on the MLS. Market is huge, supply is small. Therefore, the price is the highest. But there are ways to actually get deals on the MLS. And that's what we're going to go through right here. Now, just so you know, there are 3 different tactics we're going through. MLS is only one of them. Inside of the strategy of buying on the MLS, there are multiple tactics to actually get good deals on the MLS. Number 1 is to be fast, or to be first. That means that you constantly have to be watching the market to see what gets listed, and you want to be the first one to give them an offer. Now, that might mean that you're buying houses sight unseen because you know that you'll have an inspection period. Therefore, you can go in and find anything that might be wrong with the house, or you are setting yourself up with your realtor to get out to those properties that get listed really quickly, so you can take a look at them and give them an offer and hopefully be first. Because if you think about this, if you're first, the seller has a choice to make. They either have to look at your offer and maybe a small handful of other offers and decide from those, or say no to all that and wait for the rest of the market. Therefore, by being fast, you've effectively made yourself a smaller market that they have to choose from. However, you do have to think that if they've made the choice to put their house on the MLS, probably gone through a real estate agent, they've probably listed their house for as much as they possibly can. Because think about how real estate agents go get business. Is they're not going to go look at a $200,000 house and tell the person, hey, I can list this for 180 because that's where I think it will sell for. No, they're trying to win the contract. They're trying to win the business. Therefore, they're going to say something more like, hey, let's list this for 220. So now the seller's thinking that they can get 220 out of their house. So if you go give them an offer for 180, which is what the house is probably worth after you take out renovations and all the other costs, well, they're probably not going to accept it. But maybe by being first or being fast, you do make them think about it, especially in a slower market. Slower market means there's not as many people out there buying houses, i.e. the demand is lower and they know it, they feel it. All right, so number one, be fast or be first. Number two is to be better. What do I mean by be better? Well, some people who buy houses are going to buy houses with loans from the bank. Maybe they get a conventional mortgage from the bank. Maybe they have an FHA loan from the bank. Now, generally, banks aren't going to loan on houses that need a lot of work. These are houses that are somewhat livable already. But most sellers know that a cash offer is much safer, maybe, than a conventional mortgage or an FHA mortgage or a VA mortgage, because the person has the cash in the bank, they can close. There's no obstacles in the way. When a mortgage is in play, there's appraisals and other things that might get in the way of them actually purchasing the house. With a cash deal, it can happen really fast. It's a really clean deal. So generally, people look at a cash offer as a stronger offer. That's being better. Another thing you can do is take out any of the contingencies, like an inspection contingency. Now, this gets dangerous for you as a buyer. You really have to be confident about the renovation and the costs. Maybe when you go look at the house, you go with a contractor, you go with an inspector, you go with somebody who knows what they're looking for in the house. But you take out that contingency. So you've taken out the financial contingency by being cash. You've taken out an inspection contingency. You've taken out the appraisal contingency because you're buying in cash. Now, that is a better offer. Now, to really make a stronger offer, you are fast and you give a better offer. That is really how you're able to sometimes find deals on the MLS. Now, number three tactic for finding deals on the MLS is to be brave. What do I mean by be brave? Well, there are houses out there that are scary. They have a lot of work to do. Maybe they're condemned houses. Maybe they've been burnt. Maybe, like a fire started. I literally went to a house today where the back half of the house had been burnt off. Maybe the house was under construction. Somebody did something wrong and they had to stop construction and now they just want to get their money out of it. Now, you don't a lot of times find houses like that on the MLS. Generally, those are sold in a different way, which we're going to get to here very soon. But there are houses on the MLS that need a lot of work. A lot of times those types of houses have been sitting on the market a little bit longer because the market, the demand for houses that need a lot of work is smaller because not very many people are as brave. A lot of real estate investors, house flippers, are looking for houses that are cosmetic flips, lipstick on a pig, so to speak. That means, they might need new floors. Maybe they need to do a little bit of kitchen work, some bathroom work, some paint, put some new hardware on, but none of the scary stuff. There's no structural work. There's not big mechanical, electrical plumbing where you have to maybe rewire the house, do a new HVAC system. The plumbing, the sewer line to the street needs to be replaced. The roof needs to be replaced. Maybe the windows are older. These are all things that are really scary to a lot of people. So you might be competing with some more seasoned investors. However, you're going to find out that most seasoned investors aren't probably buying houses off the MLS, or at least that's not their primary means of finding houses. So being brave, learning the skills that it takes to be able to deal with a bigger renovation like that will put you in the situation where you're able to create, once again, a smaller market. There's smaller demand for a house like that because there's a smaller market. Therefore, you can find a deal. You see the theme here. The smaller the market, the better the deal you're going to get. So you're always trying to create situations where you're not buying tickets off of Ticketmaster, where you are competing in a way that is different than everybody else. And the fourth way to find a deal on the MLS is by being more long-term. Some real estate investors, not necessarily flippers, have a longer-term strategy. Going back to the equation that we talked about, which is sales price, which you're going to sell the house for, minus acquisition, minus renovation costs, minus other costs equals your profit. Well, what we're talking about mostly today is get that acquisition price down and you create yourself more space to be able to make mistakes on your sales price or on your renovation costs or your other costs, and you'll still have some profit at the end of the day because those things are going to happen. You are going to sell the house for less than you thought you could. You're going to spend more on the renovation than you thought you would, and you're going to have other costs that come up that you didn't account for. It's just going to happen. I'm telling you, after a decade, it is going to happen. It still happens to me. Happens less so, and I'm able to combat those things more than I used to be able to, but there's just a lot of things that come up. What we're talking about is trying to get the acquisition price down. But there is a longer term strategy to where you might buy at the market price today, knowing that you're going to be holding that property long enough and knowing that over time, real estate always appreciates. That means it goes up in value. So you're not actually in that equation looking at the sales price today. You're looking at the sales price 5, maybe 10 years from now, and that is going to be more. And if you have the financial backing to be able to withstand those years, then of course you can make that deal a deal. And that's probably not for you today. And heck, it's not for me either. I'm not a passive investor. I'm an active investor. That means that whatever I buy, I want to be in the lead today. That means that I want to have equity in that house today. I want it to be worth more to me today. I want it to increase my net worth today. Not everybody acts that way. There are longer term investors. And I'm really giving you this tactic because it may be a tactic you use in the future. But the more important thing is that is what you're competing with. And you need to understand that. But fortunately for you, most long-term investors who are willing to pay a little bit more today, they're not as fast. They're not as quick to get in there, and they're not willing to take the risks that you might be able to with the renovations that you'll do, because you're going to be in the game and you're going to be controlling that. And so you might be willing to do some things that a longer term investor might not want to do. And finally, this is a very important thing for you to understand on buying houses on the MLS, most likely through a realtor, is that realtors get paid because generally when a house is put on the market to sell, the seller's agent is going to say, hey, we're going to give 6% of this sale. That means that to realtors, that means that my brokerage as the seller's agent is going to get 3%. And the buyer's agent's brokerage is going to get 3%. 3% plus 3% makes the 6%. So in this $200,000 house sale, $12,000 of that's 6%. $6,000 is going to go to the buyer's agent. $6,000 is going to go to the seller's agent. But the deal is some people put their houses on not the MLS where realtors put their houses, but they put their houses on maybe Zillow, on Trulia, on some of those others like realtor.com, where they're selling it for sale by owner without an agent. But your agent is going to set you up on a search where you tell them the parameters in which you want to buy, the price point, the areas, and so on and so forth. And an automatic email is going to go to you. And some real estate agents are even hotter on it, and they'll be looking actively on the market for houses that fit your parameters because they're really wanting you to go out and buy something. However, a house that is for sale by owner is not going to be on their list. They're not going to be out there looking for those because, well, they don't get paid on those. And I'm not trying to say that as it's a bad thing for real estate agents. It wouldn't be on my list either if I wasn't going to get income, if I wasn't going to get compensated for that work. Or maybe they'd have to negotiate with you to get compensated for that work. But most agents, as a rule of thumb, are not going to be showing you or sending you for sale by owner houses. Those are some of the best deals out there. You see, usually when somebody puts their house on Zillow, let's just say that. When I say Zillow, I mean all the places where you could list your house personally, maybe even Facebook Marketplace. Usually they price their houses way too high, but they don't necessarily sell them like that because usually when somebody lists their house for sale by owner, it puts what I call a filter on it. And that filter is, hey, I'm cheap. This house is cheap. And a lot of people turn their nose at those types of houses. Now, they do get a lot of calls. Somebody that lists their house for sale by owner is going to get calls from all kinds of different real estate agents trying to get them to sign a listing agreement with them. They're also going to get calls from people like us wanting to buy it. But what I have found is even though they get a lot of calls, they don't get a lot of follow through. And this is one of the reasons that the MLS, the market, has such high demand is because it's easy to find the houses. The harder it is to find a house, the smaller the market gets. So, for sale by owners might get a lot of calls. They don't get follow through. That means that even if the price is too high, I still think that you should call them and you should set an appointment with them. You should build a relationship with them and you should make them an offer for what you believe that house is worth. Now, I'm not going to get too into the weeds on what kind of offer you should be writing, but just for general purposes, this is a general rule of thumb for real estate investors or flippers is the 70% rule. You should take what you believe that house will sell for. Let's say you think that house is going to sell for $300,000 and you take 70% of the sales price. 70% of $300,000 is $210,000, right? Yes, it is. $210,000 is 70% minus the renovation costs and the other costs. So let's say that you believe that that house has $40,000 of renovation work. Other costs are going to be like $10,000. You would take the $210,000 minus the $50,000, and that would equal $160,000. That's what you would be offering on that house. That's a general rule of thumb. You can bend a little bit to each way, but once again, getting a deal on the front end gives you room to make mistakes, which you are inevitably going to make. So you should go meet that person, make them an offer, or at least make a relationship and continue to follow up, because sales, which is what we're talking about, even though you're actually buying it, it's still the same sales process. Sales, most people think of sales and they think of like the car salesman or whatever. That's not really it. That's actually really crappy sales. But sales comes down to negotiation, which is what a lot of people think is that person to person, and they're a salesperson has some sort of strategy to try to get a better deal, blah, 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 blah. But which we're not talking about right now. But sales comes down to negotiation plus follow-up. And it's equal. Negotiation plus follow-up, 50-50. Most salespeople leave out the follow-up part. So if you are one that follows up, even if you suck at negotiation, if you are 100% on the follow-up, that's half the equation already. And I have met lots of salespeople. I worked with a guy on our wholesale team, going out to find deals direct to seller. And he was not a great negotiator, but that dude followed up on everything all the time, every day, and he would get deals just as much as our top negotiating salespeople. So go meet the for sale by owner people and build a relationship with them and continually follow up. Tell them what you'd pay for the house. And you're not going to get everyone. Heck, you'll probably get less than 10% of them. But I'm telling you, you've created a very small market because real estate agents aren't showing their buyers these for sale by owners, and the people that are going after the for sale by owners will fizzle out, probably because they know better ways to get deals. So let's talk about number two, the number two strategy to finding deals, which is through a wholesaler. I've already touched on that. Now, what is a wholesaler? A wholesaler is simply somebody who goes out and gets a contract to purchase a house. Let's take this same $200,000 house as an example. Now, this house, we know that an investor would buy it for $200,000, let's say. So a wholesaler is going to go to that house. They're going to get directly in contact with that seller, and they're going to make them an offer. Let's say they make them an offer for $190,000. The seller accepts their offer because most likely they have made themselves a small market. The seller has accepted their offer for $190,000. Now, the wholesaler is going to come to their list of cash buyers, who could be you. We're going to talk about that in a second. And they're going to say, hey, I have this house that I will sell to you for $200,000. That's what it's worth, because they'll show you that equation or an equation like it that says, if you do what I think a $50,000 renovation and the house will sell for this amount, you will make money if you buy this at $200,000. So they don't actually sell you that house. What actually happens is when you go to close on that house, you'll find that this wholesaler has assigned you the contract that they have for $190,000 with the seller. They've assigned their position in that contract of $190,000 for a $10,000 finder's fee. There's different things that people call it, but that's basically what it comes down to. They have made the $10,000 difference between the $190,000 and the $200,000. And when you go to close on that house, you'll pay $200,000 for it, and the wholesaler will get $10,000 at the closing table, and you'll get your house. So you actually give $10,000 to the wholesaler and $190,000 to the original seller of the house. That's how you end up paying the $200,000. Doesn't really matter. That's how wholesalers make their money, arbitrage. They find good deals, and they find people who will pay more money for those good deals. This is, in the ticket world for your Taylor Swift concert tickets, is you waiting till the day of the concert. You go down to the stadium and you find ticket scalpers. That's exactly what they do. Ticket scalpers have found deals on the tickets, and they're going to sell it to you for a little bit more. But here's the thing about a ticket scalper is the second that concert starts, the value for that ticket has gone to zero, or maybe halfway through the concert, whatever. When the concert's over, ticket value has gone to zero. Same thing for a wholesaler. They have gotten a contract to purchase this guy's home for $190,000 with a closing date of whatever, January 1st. When January 1st comes, if they haven't found somebody to buy that house or they're going to buy it themselves, their contract value basically goes to zero. That means that this wholesaler has to find a buyer. But in being a wholesaler in the past, I know that you have three lists. You have your self and your small insiders circle. Okay, these are what I call the true insiders, including yourself, who might buy that house. All right, these are people who have proven themselves to this wholesaler that they will absolutely close a deal. They'll pay at least enough for it. But you got to look at the wholesaler's position, just like the ticket scalper, that if they don't close by the time that concert ends, they make $0. So the true insiders for them are people that they absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, know are going to close. They're not going to screw them around. They're not going to do anything to jeopardize that deal. See, some buyers, they want to have all kinds of inspections done. They want to be walking the house like it's a deal off the MLS. You know, when you buy a house on the MLS, you get to do all the inspections you want and all that bull crap. But when you buy a house off market through a wholesaler, well, you don't really get to do all that stuff. Not saying that you don't get to do any inspections, but every one of these things causes some sort of friction between the wholesaler and the original seller. That contract it never feels very strong when you're a wholesaler. So they're always nervous about that. So the true insiders for them have proven that they're not going to blow a deal for them. That's their first group. Their second group is what I call the inner circle. The inner circle is a larger pool of buyers that are pretty dang good buyers, pretty solid buyers. They pretty much always come through for them, but their relationship isn't as good as the true insiders. True insiders are like friends of theirs, maybe investors that they have. And truly, most of the time, between your true insider group and your inner circle, you never really have to go further than that to sell a deal. Because same thing with the buyers, they get to trust this wholesaler and they don't have to worry about deal flow as much. That is a position that you want to be in, and we're going to talk about how to get there. But first, you need to understand the wholesaler's position. And finally, their third group is what most of them would call the big list. Over time, they have either bought or grown their list of buyers. A lot of the names on there, they don't even know who these people are. And when the true insiders in the inner circle all say no to the deal, then they'll probably send it out to the big list. And that's maybe even they put them out on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or whatever. They put them out to everybody. And most wholesalers don't want to do this because even though they may get a higher price for it, they are going to have to deal with a lot more crap to do that. So generally, those are the people who do that successfully are generally bigger wholesalers. And honestly, like, I don't buy from those guys very often because a lot of times you get a worse deal than if you bought it off the MLS using some of the strategies that we've already talked about. So how do you get great deals from these bird dogs? Some people call wholesalers bird dogs, deal finders. Well, there's a few tactics. Now, what you want to do is ultimately be a true insider for them, or at least in their inner circle. But ones who have established themselves already and have their big list and maybe have worked out the ways to sell to this big list. Maybe they have like an admin team or people who go and show the house. Maybe they've found ways to make the contract stronger so they're not as scared of running into the concert over situation. Well, you want to find newer wholesalers. And this is just like if you're recruiting employees, you're going to look for people who you feel like have a long runway, because I'll tell you, a lot of wholesalers come and go. So you don't want to waste your time building a relationship with somebody who's going to fail on their first few deals and ultimately quit. You want to recruit, for lack of better words, build relationships with people who you really believe are going to make it, are going to continue to build their business. But I'll take the ones that might only do a couple deals as well, because when you find a newer wholesaler, I don't even want to say the fear of not moving a deal. The reality of not moving a deal is really high for them. They might get something under contract, but I'm telling you, as a wholesaler, you're terrified at first because it's like you kind of have to write the check with no money in the bank. It's like, I got to go get a deal before I can find a buyer. So I'm getting a deal and I don't actually know if I'm going to get a good enough deal for somebody to buy it from me. So if you can find those guys, the new ones out there, and you start to build a relationship with them, well, you might be a true insider for them. You might be their only buyer and you could get a fantastic deal. They might have got that deal for $190 and they'll sell it to you for $192 because $2,000 is better than zero. And in fact, it's better than having to tell somebody that I told I would close this house, right? Because they're going to tell that seller that I'm going to get this done for you, Mr. Seller guy. And for them to have to tuck their tail and run back to him and say, I'm sorry, I got to cancel this contract. They don't want to do that. Nobody's that bad of a person. They want to come through for that person. So they might take $192,000, only make $2,000 of a cut just because they want to move the deal. And, I suggest that even if that's the situation, you don't skin the wholesaler, give them some money, maybe give them $5,000 because that will encourage them to put you on their insider group. That will encourage them to go find another deal and you're going to be the first call next time. And that's how you become a true insider for a wholesaler, and focus on one for now and then another one and then another one. Don't get antsy. This is what a lot of people do is they want to get into the game and they end up buying a bad deal the first time. Take your time, start building the foundation. And that's the foundation. Get a couple wholesalers, maybe just one, that really look at you as a true insider and make sure you come through for them, because what makes a good buyer is somebody who closes, somebody who doesn't put a lot of friction into the deal. Now, wholesalers are absolutely a fantastic way. And if you can build, for lack of better words, an army of these wholesalers, you will have a nice deal flow. And the situation that I get in sometimes is I don't want to have too many because I don't actually want to let them down. If they call and have a deal, I want to be able to buy it. So if you're not buying that many deals, like truly, maybe only have one or become one yourself. Not necessarily a wholesaler. You don't have to sell the deals to somebody else, but you go out and get deals direct with the seller. Now, I want to continue our ticket analogy through here, but I really don't know a good way to explain how this would translate in the ticket sales thing. This would literally be like you calling around or sending emails to find somebody on Taylor Swift's ticketing team who will give you a deal at cost on the tickets. Maybe that's possible. You'd probably have to do a lot of work. You'd probably make a lot of swings and misses. You'd probably have to send all kinds of marketing out and maybe get no response. And as I'm saying this, I realize that maybe it's a great analogy because that is what it's like to try to get deals directly with sellers. But I'm telling you, that's where you're going to get some of the best deals. Early in my career, I had a lot of trouble making money off flipping houses. Luckily, I made it through that pain, mostly because I was willing to learn how to do the work myself. And that got me out of a lot of bad situations that I put myself in early on. But of course, I'm doing this to try to help you avoid those situations that I got myself into, because not everybody is going to have the ability to do that, to climb out of the holes. Also, I was in my 20s, so sometimes I just live on the job sites. That was a big money saver for me. Anyhow, getting deals direct from the seller will get you some fantastic deals, because early on, I realized that everybody had their hands in my pocket, and all I wanted to do was get those hands out of my pocket. And I didn't want to have to pay middlemen all the time, because that's where all my money was going. All of my money was going to paying other people just to be able to do this career. this is one of the biggest hands that you have in your pocket. You're either paying a wholesaler, you're paying a realtor, you're paying the other side's realtor, you're overpaying for the houses. But if you go direct to seller, you effectively become a market of one. You are the only market. And that is how you get great deals. Now, a lot of people get all weirded out here. Like, well, I don't want to go out here and like screw these people out of their house. You're not doing that. They have hands in their pockets too. All you're able to do is cut out all the crap, make a deal directly with them, not pay anybody else. They get probably about as much money as they would have gotten anyway, and you get a way better deal on the house. It's a win-win situation. Now, do they get exactly as much as they would have gotten if they put their house on the market? Well, no. But to put their house on the market, they would have had to clean all the crap out of their house, or maybe got the bad tenant out of their house. They would have had to go through all of the work of listing their house, letting people walk through their house. If they had tenants in there, they'd have to work to make arrangements with the tenant for all these showings. They would have had to make arrangements for the inspection resolution. In fact, they probably wouldn't have gotten the price that they listed it for in the first place, but then an inspection would have gotten done. And most likely the person that was buying it would say, well, hey, I need you to fix A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, to buy this house. And that's going to cost $10,000, maybe $20,000. And then they're going to have an appraisal, which sometimes an appraiser comes back and says, hey, you got to do these few things to the house before the bank will actually give the buyer money. And of course, they could walk at any time, but then they're waiting longer and they're paying more mortgage payments. So at the end of the day, maybe they would have gotten a little bit more money on the real estate market, but they would have done a heck of a lot more work. So you can save them from all that. And I would let them know that. And you might come in there with cash, close in 7 days, and at a pretty good deal for them. And a lot of people are going to be really happy to not have all that headache and to have somebody that they know is going to come through for them on the sale. 7 days, all this crap is off of your lap. A lot of people love it. And that could be you. How do you go about getting deals directly with seller? It is much simpler than you might think. And when you hear all these things, maybe it blows your mind, you get overwhelmed and you're like, oh gosh, I got to learn all these things. Guys, it's not that much. Look at me. I'm not that smart. I figured out how to do it. It's something I do on a regular basis. It's part of my rhythm. Get through the cloud at the beginning and it's all going to get a lot easier. And that is the same for a lot of things that you do. It seems overwhelming. It seems like some kind of black hole that you're never going to figure out. There is nothing that is that complex. You'll figure it out. It'll be very simple once you do it a couple of times. First thing you need to do is you need to have a list. You need to have a list of the types of houses that are likely to sell. They would say houses with a little bit of pain. All right, maybe they're tax delinquent, meaning they haven't paid their taxes. Maybe they are houses that have been handed down to them, sold quit claim between family members, a house that has been given to them through probate. Somebody passed away and the house was given to them. And they don't really care about the house. They just know that they can get money out of it. There are lots of different points that you look for to build a list. And I'm not going to go through all those things today, but what you really need to know is where you build these lists, because I'm trying to simplify this for you. And all of these places are going to have pre-built lists with all these things. And I'm trying to avoid saying all these things because this is what builds the overwhelm in your mind, thinking that, oh gosh, I'm never going to be able to figure this out. You're going to be able to figure it out. Super simple, guys. So there are places, I have no affiliation with any of these places. However, I do use them. So I guess if they wanted to give me some sort of, whatever. I don't know how that works. Let me just tell you what to do. List Source is one. Property Radar, Prop Stream. There's the batch companies, batch leads, maybe is what it's called. There's all kinds of them. Look up those 4: List Source, Property Radar, PropStream, Batch Leads. Just do a Google search, and then all their competitors will also be serving you ads. They all do the same crap. They're all going to tell you that one has better lists than the other, and maybe they do, whatever. Just get a list. Don't try to get perfect here. Go to their website, sign up. They'll have pre-made lists that have the pain points on them, and you get a list for your area. And that list is going to most likely come with the site address. That's the address of the house that you're wanting to buy. The person's mailing address, most likely where they live, their phone number and affiliated phone numbers, so you might get like their spouse's phone number, and unfortunately, sometimes you get their cousin, aunt, and uncle's phone number too. So usually I call the first one and hope that's the person. You get their email address, which isn't always accurate, but you're getting information to contact these people. And this is how people do it. They get a list. It's got phone numbers. It's got their home address, so they can do one of two things: send them mail or give them phone calls. It's that simple. Some people probably do cold emails and all that. Mail, phone calls. If you got the money to spend on mail, send some mail. And if you don't, then call them. And eventually you'll hit somebody that's interested in selling the house. Guys, it's that simple. The list is going to cost you a little bit of money, but that's okay. It is money well spent, because on a wholesale, you're going to probably pay the wholesaler $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. On an MLS deal, you're going to overpay. Going direct is worth the upfront cost. Get the list, work the list. Let's talk a little bit about mail. All right, this is another thing that can cause overwhelm, because just a lot of people want to get on here and talk about the thing in detail and show and tell all the advanced strategies. And this has been the problem for me with marketing all along, is I would talk with all these different marketers, and they're always using big words and advanced strategies. And the reality is, if you just do the basics, you're going to get results. The basics are going to get you 80% of the way there. And that's good enough. And in fact, the cost of hiring some of these other people kind of cancels everything out anyway. Gosh, I shouldn't have brought this up, because now this is going to be confusing. But I've hired agencies before to run Facebook ads. And I might have to pay them $1,000 a month to run these ads. And we're running $1,000 a month worth of ad spend. So $1,000 of ad spend plus the $1,000 I pay them. Well, gosh, I could suck really bad and just, instead of hiring them for $1,000 a month, instead spend $2,000, the $1,000 that I was spending on ads, plus the $1,000 that I was paying them just on ads, and I'll get better results. I might only get 80% of the results that I was getting through them, but I'm sending ads out to twice as many people. I'm not going to do the math here, but that's better. Same thing with the lists. Yes, there are people who know how to get the perfect lists, and they know exactly what to put on there. You'll learn it over time. You're never going to learn it if you don't do it, though. And yes, there is ways to write the mail that will be perfect for your area, for your target audience, and it will be more effective for you. But you'll learn it over time. Here's what I did when I started, and the key is I still do it, or the secret is I still do it. I take things like Homevestors. You know who that is? That's We Buy Ugly Houses. Their actual company name is Homevestors. Well, I get their cards, and then I look at them, and then I copy them exactly, word for word, because I figure these guys are sending millions of dollars worth of marketing every year, and they probably figured it out. So I'll just copy their crap. Who cares? It doesn't have to be perfect. Once again, 80% is going to be good enough. All right, so that's how you send mail. You're going to spend a lot of money sending mail, but you will get calls, and you got to take those calls, and you got to go close them down. But here's the thing. There are other people doing this. They're probably better salespeople than you, but you're genuine. That's all. You're genuine. You're going to tell them exactly what you're doing. You think you can sell this house for this much? real estate investor generally pays 70% of what they think they can sell it for, minus the renovation costs. Let's walk around this thing together, man. And here's what I think the renovation costs are going to be. Are there more strategies to it? Yes. But once again, I don't want to get you overwhelmed because, guys, you can do this. People like me who, I say that because like I'm not that smart. I have no special skills. These are skills that I learned not because I have some special ability to learn skills, because they're just not that complex. You just got to take the action. And that's why a lot of people aren't going to do this, because you have to take steps. And a lot of people never get off their butts to go take the steps. And I really want you to go take the steps, because you can build a moat around your personal empire. Something that you don't go to a job 40 hours a week for the best days or the best years of your life. Instead, you control your financials, you control your financial freedom, and you are able to make money at will. And not by screwing people over, by making strong deals that are win-win. And that's the skills that we're trying to build here today. Now, if you do want to learn a little bit more about the sales, I actually made a whole video on my main channel that is how to use the tactics of an FBI hostage negotiator and apply them to your sales tactics in finding off-market deals. I'll link it right here. Guys, I hope you go check it out, and I hope that you take some steps towards your financial future. Thank you.